Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today is the first and last day you can play the new Battlefield Hardline Getaway DLC. And yes, I'm kind of joking that today is the last day you can play it, only because the server numbers are so low right now, especially on PC. If you own a PC platform, right now I'm looking at the server browser. I see one US server, and this is launch day. Tomorrow, that US server might not be here, which makes doing a review of the Getaway DLC kind of depressing because what's the point of seeking time or effort into this game right now to unlock stuff and learn things about it if you know nobody's going to be playing it a week from now? Now, mind you, I am playing on PC. Had I bought the game on PS4, then you would have a much healthier player base. Not the biggest player base on the planet, but you'd at least have an average of 10,000 people playing globally every day, where on PC we're peaking at like 2,000, 2,400 at a time. And like I said, very few of those players are on US servers, so we may at best have one or two servers up. And it really is a crying shame here because the Hardline team is giving away a ton of stuff for free, and that's still not bringing in new players. There are 9, I repeat, 9 new weapons in this DLC and patch that are going to be free for everyone. So if you don't have premium or you didn't buy the DLC, you're still going to get 9 guns that are actually some really cool guns. If you did buy the DLC, you'll get an extra 3 guns. And of course the 4 maps and a bunch of vehicles on those maps and a new gadget. Oh, and not to forget the new game mode, Capture the Bag, which is just what it sounds like. It's Capture the Flag. Remember when Hardline had that cool new innovative game called Blood Money, which was sort of a different take on Capture the Flag, but it had back and forth, and you're like, oh cool, I'm glad they didn't just remake Capture the Flag. Well, they just remade Capture the Flag, so now you can play that for the one day that anyone will ever play it. And it really confuses me because Capture the Flag has never worked in any Battlefield game. It was in Battlefield 3, it was in Battlefield 4, and now it's in Battlefield Hardline. They were around for a little while, people played it ever so slightly, and then just went back to the good game modes that the game was actually built around. So I don't know why they keep sticking this in here. It's my ongoing issue of game bloating, where they just feel like they need a list of features to put into games for it to be worthwhile, rather than sticking to the core set of game mechanics. Now, one thing that was clear from the beginning with Hardline is that they might have some trouble differentiating the different DLCs. I mean, it's all about cops and criminals. It's all kind of around robbing or gang warfare. This one is no different. It's called Getaway, and I guess there's fast cars in it this time, so it's supposed to be more about like the chase than the getaway, but it hasn't really changed. In fact, the fast cars don't actually feel faster. They sound faster and they look faster, but I don't think they actually are faster than the standard coupes or whatever you'd be driving in the normal game mode. Now, the 4 new maps are pretty. I think I like Double Cross the most in terms of how it actually plays out. In fact, it almost kind of reminds me of a Hardline version of Caspian Border because it's got this big wall in the middle of the map and it's got some air vehicles and stuff like that. It's pretty open. I think it's the most fun map to play. Then there's also the train dodge map, which is exactly what it sounds like. There's a giant train that runs through the middle of the map periodically going in both directions. It'll blow up vehicles. If it hits it, it'll run over people, and it's very funny because I've seen it happen a lot already. And then you can actually jump up on the train while it's moving and shoot people as it's going by. I think this is actually one of the most fun features that's been in a Hardline DLC today, and it cracks me up. It doesn't really crack me up in a, oh, that was a cool epic Battlefield moment. It kind of cracks me up in the way that maybe a Plants vs. Zombie game would, because it's such a goofy mechanic. Then we have the map Diversion, which takes place in the underground Houston Flood Diversion Center. It's very big, all concrete, kind of a cool looking environment, heavily infantry focused. There's no vehicles here. A lot of close quarter combat and a huge amount of vertical gameplay. Not really a big fan of the vertical gameplay. The combat itself is pretty darn chaotic. It's interesting. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite though. Then we have the Pacific Highway map, which is the cross between a forest, a big kind of rocky mountain area, and then a coastal highway. There's a lighthouse off on the coast. There's an underground area under the mountain. There's sort of a summer cabin area. Then there's like a vineyard part of the map. I can't say I was a huge fan of the map overall. It seems sort of like a mixture between infantry and vehicles, but mostly just a lot of running through the forest. Now, as for the new guns, there's a lot of them. I really love the look of the AUG Para, which is just a really cool short version of the AUG. I wish this gun made it into more games. It's in Hardline though. You can try it out. crap at range. I mean, it is a submachine gun, I guess, in this game. I feel like it should do a little more damage at range, but it's a decent CQB weapon. Then alternatively, on the other side, you get the M5 Navy. It's the Mp5 Navy, but this is sort of the classic looking MP5 that I think most people recognize from movies. Then we get the M39 EMR, just like Battlefield 4, but this one has the full auto function on it. There's an 1887 shotgun, which is a very cool, like old-fashioned looking shotgun, and it's fun to shoot people with. Very slow rate of fire though, so it's tricky to use. There's an interesting G17 race pistol, which is basically like a competition version of your standard G17 Glock. They have the AWS sniper rifle for all classes now, which I think is kind of weird. There's a cool little suppressed M5 SD, a 338 Recon, UMP9, SAR 21 is coming over into the game now. So there's a lot of new guns. Granted, a bunch of them are kind of copy and paste drafts from Battlefield 4, but is that really the worst thing ever? I would love Battlefield 4 to copy and paste over some of the Hardline guns, like maybe the Chris Vector. So overall, it's a solid content addition. It's just unfortunately not a very inspired DLC. There's nothing about this one that really jumps out at me like, oh my god, have you tried the new DLC? You can do this. Fill in the blank. There is nothing to fill in the blank there. It's not like a traditional Battlefield DLC like Naval Strike, where it's all about naval combat, or Armored Kill, where you got these massive maps with tons of tanks, or hover tanks and railguns. I mean, generally speaking, the Battlefield DLCs feel like they had a little bit more effort involved with them, and this just feels like 4 new maps with random themes that don't really interlink with each other, and then a bunch of new guns, a gadget that nobody's going to use, some vehicles that don't really change anything up. I mean, there's the limo that's bulletproof, and fast cars that aren't really that fast. There's nothing like crazy about it. There's nothing game changing or that's really gonna add a whole new element to the Hardline package. It's just like, yeah, here's some new maps and guns, and that's basically what this DLC is. And it sucks because there's a lot of practices within Hardline right now in the DLC that I want to support and promote, like free guns and content for people who didn't buy the premium package. That's great. That's a practice that I would love EA and DICE and Visceral and any future game companies to continue on with, especially free maps. I think that's the way to go. But generally speaking, there's nothing going on in this DLC that I think is just phenomenal. And in fact, the whole DLC situation right now is just kind of awkward because the game is just dead on PC. It's dead as a doornail. Nobody's coming back to it. Nothing's really going to revive it. So they're still coming out with content. It's not particularly inspired content, but it's just sort of following that basic Battlefield formula plan. And when you don't have a community behind the game, it doesn't matter how many new guns you come out with. They could have come out with 40 new guns, and I would have been like, oh yeah, there's 40 new guns, but you know, no one's playing the game, so it doesn't really matter. And the maps don't really matter because nobody's playing it. So it's just sort of an awkward and kind of depressing situation. Maybe a lesson to be learned about selling stuff like premium and guaranteeing like 4 DLCs. Maybe you should just sell the base game and then worry about DLC later. Come out with your premium later when you know the game's going to be a big success. Anyway, that kind of wraps it up for this depressing review of the Hardline Getaway DLC. If you love Hardline, then this is just basically more of the same, so have fun with that. If you weren't on board with Hardline, then there's nothing here that's going to get you on board. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing out.